Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started, and what are they doing to stay there? And here we are, 2023. We're in season 4, and we have another special guest. Her name is Rosalinda Quiroga. We call her Rosie. She's a certified HR professional. She is the director of human resources at Royal Oaks Country Club. And Rosie, I'm so excited to have you on the show. How you doing?
Very good. I'm excited to be here. This is awesome.
I always
Oh
like
my
to
goodness.
reflect on when we met, and I was actually thinking about that this morning. I believe we met for the first time, or the first time I remember meeting you was at the Dallas HR office. We were in the high rise over off of the tollway at 635, and I believe at the time you might have been working for Hilton. Do you remember
Yes,
that? Like a
yes,
social event?
you nailed it.
Yeah, and so we've known each other through Dallas HR, and then of course the last few years, you've been a big part of our Climb group. That's our leadership book club. Connect, lead, inspire, mentor, and build. And I've just enjoyed getting to know you. And I would love to start off the show for you just sharing a little bit about your organization, Royal Oaks Country Club, and how you serve your customers.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Royal Oaks Country Club is an established golf club, and it's a private club for members here in Dallas, Texas. It's the big attraction, of course, is golf, but we have also a director of rackets, director of aquatics, and again, we love serving our members here that join our club. We do have a waiting list, which is awesome, and hope that says something for our experience and how we uh, take care of our members here at the club.
And I appreciate that. I love playing golf. No question about that. Anytime I get the
Mhm.
opportunity to go out and play golf, and what I enjoy about it, I'm not really any good, but it's the conversations you have with the people you play during that time. My brother and I, and a lot of times we'll take our sons out to play golf, and we just have so much fun just on the golf course, just doing life. And so I just love that. Hey, let me, I would, I know you, Rosie, but I know there's some things that I don't know about you. And I would love to share your story and let the audience hear about Rosie Quiroga. Like, where did you grow up and how in the world did you get into HR and leadership?
Oh, I've been on a journey. I grew up here in Dallas. I'm an actual Dallasite, Dallas, Texas, and went to school here and graduated from Ursuline Academy and actually went to college outside, believe it or not, as much as I don't like to call it Bellevue University. But I grew up here in Dallas and have been here living in Dallas, and I started out, I had received my associate's degree in travel and tourism, and I just kind of wanted to know, what do I do with this? Where do I go? I wanted to actually be a flight attendant. And then that
Oh,
kind of, after getting that associate's degree and seeing how much there was in the tourism side, I ventured into Marriott and started off actually my career with Marriott Corporation. And we were kicking off one of the boutiques of the hotels. Like all the hotels have all the different versions of what they cater to the travelers. And for Marriott Corporate, that office was changing up and closing, and I continued on to the Marriott Quorum. And that's where I took my first step into HR. I was the HR coordinator, doing a little bit of everything. And so that kind of kicked off the HR realm or field. And then from there, I kind of wanted to know what more of this hospitality is there to learn. And in high school, I had worked with the Martinez family for El Phoenix, and so then I said, okay, well, I had an opportunity to open up with a concept restaurant of Casa Rosa
mm.
for the Cuellar family. So it was definitely a pleasure and an honor to work for both families, learn about the restaurant business, got to do the catering side of it for Casa Rosa, enjoyed it very much, and then still wanted to keep exploring, what else is out there. And I went to work at the Anatole. And so I ended up there as HR coordinator, and I did recruiting. So that I stepped into the recruiting field right then and there. loved it. And then the food and beverage manager saw, okay, I think you're really good. You need to come work on meeting services. So that kind of started my tour into the food and beverage realm. And I did meeting services, restaurant manager, food and beverage trainer, a little bit of everything. Again, hungry, wanted to see what else is out there in the world. Because at that point, I had just been in the hotel industry. I did go to work for Ford Motor Company. And Ford Motor Company, I loved it. Guest experience, guest relations. We did sort of the blue circle and making sure everyone was being treated the best. And then I was asked to speak over at one of it was the Dallas, I believe, the Dallas HR over in at the Nana at that time at the Anatole, and we were talking about how we were engaging our teams at the different properties of the dealerships for the employees, and how we were assisting them. And at that time, we were providing them some laptops they could take home, help themselves, help their kids. And at the Anatole, they had a position open, and I took an elevator ride down and kind of never left. I came back to the hotel industry. I missed it. It does get in your blood. It's all hospitality, though. It just stays in your blood of that. And I came back, and from there, just kind of stayed with Hilton, and then I was with Hilton a little over 18 years.
Mm.
Then, of course, we all know COVID came around, and but it gave me an opportunity again to try something a little bit different, but still the same. It's hospitality. It's how you engage and treat your team on your property, and you still have that member satisfaction that you want to take care of your guests and go above and beyond all the
There is so much here. I love this because we're going to be talking about the employee experience today. And wow, there's not a better training ground than what you've had for the employee
time.
experience. I want to ask you real quick. You wanted to be a flight attendant, huh? Tell me about
Right.
that. Where did
I
that come from?
did. I thought about, how cool it is to just go all over the world and then meet all these people on these flights. And it may sound kind of silly, but it's like when I was little and I could hear, the cars going by at night. We lived pretty close to the expressway, and you could hear it in our home. And I always thought, what are all these people thinking or talking about? And I kind of go to sleep thinking about that. And then here on the flight, I'm thinking, oh, how cool. You have all these people on a journey. They're going for different reasons, whether it's to go for vacation, maybe to see someone sick. Everyone on that plane has a story. I've always been like that. And I wanted to be a flight attendant. I thought, and then how cool, of course, to have those extra perks and, your miles and get to see some beautiful places. God created such a beautiful world. It's just, oh my gosh, just wanting the desire to see it.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. A flight attendant could make you have a great experience. And then I love
Mhm.
how you talked about how you also, where you were in the hotel and hospitality, but you also worked in the restaurant business as well. Of course, El Phoenix has always been one of my favorites. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. Now, is the
yeah.
one in Dallas the first El Phoenix
The
location? Do you
one
know?
downtown.
Yeah.
Yes, the one downtown. I actually worked mine was on Hillcrest Avenue, and I worked there
Okay.
during high school, and I
Love
loved it.
that.
It was a great experience, great, first almost like a great, it's a great first job and hostess, and it was fun. It was
You
a
know,
lot of fun.
it's interesting when you look back on your career, you think about some of the jobs you have, and you're like so blessed to be in that role because you learned so much. That's what led you today. I'm curious. So here you are, you're the director of human resources today. You talked about, early on, you were like started in recruiting, I think at the Anatole. Were there
Hmm.
some, I always like to talk about mentors or people that have helped us on our journey through our career. Were there some people that helped you along the way? And if so, would you share maybe some things that they did that were helpful to you as a mentor?
Oh, definitely. Mentors are all along your life. I feel like you get different mentors throughout your life. My dad is the core of my foundation. My
Mhm.
dad is absolutely my mentor. I didn't realize until he passed how much of a daddy's girl I was. And but it's all, that I cherish him and everything that he taught me, and things that I didn't even realize were so important as to what to take of life. That don't rush it, be patient, do your best. And I think seeing him and how he was with individuals, he was a piano tuner and he did all things, refinish pianos, tune pianos, and he would go see some, celebrities, some people. It would be like, Daddy, what'd you do today? And oh, I was with some singer. She sings, and and but they would talk about life. They would talk about everything else, and I'm like,
Mm,
he would say it was Dionne Warwick or it was this person. He'd go tune, and see these people before their performances here in Dallas, and for him, it wasn't about the name; it was about the person and
mm,
what they just talked about because he always loved talking about, being in harmony with nature, being in harmony with yourself.
mm,
He spoke a lot about the intonations that he would get like from tuning a piano and those tones and how they affected all of your cells and how those tones of life affect your cells and how they make a difference in how you feel. And now I think about it towards that mental wellness, mental well-being, as we are all, striving for now in this time and age. So I think a lot of the things that he would speak about, maybe weren't like the key words in or the focus at the time, but now how important those simple elements are. That is definitely a foundation.
yeah, that's fantastic. As you shared that, I'm sitting here writing all these things down that still apply to me today. Like, don't push it, be patient. I'm like, yes, she's
Yeah.
talking to me, and he's talking to me on this podcast. But I agree with what you said about, just like he's talking about. It's not about the name; it's about the person. And as you just sit there, you kind of shifted into mental wellness. I think that was just spot on, because as he wasn't trying to like highlight the name, it was more about, hey, how are you doing?
Right.
And trying to learn more about the person during the process. And so that's a great, like, that's incredible mentorship, and not necessarily in a formal way saying, hey, Rosie, watch me, but it's more of,
Mhm.
hey, this is how I go about my business every day. Watch me.
Exactly. And then, for the other individuals, you always have those people, as I mentioned, throughout your careers, throughout all the spots, as you say, that you go to. I had, a director of security that kind of would always be, what are you going to do if? And it was
Mm,
back in the time, I'm going to date myself here.
mhm.
Speed, the movie, what are you going to do if? But we took it to real life. What are you going to do if, this happens in the workplace? What are you going to do if someone blocks you in and where you park? He would do all these practical little exercises and they were great. It was kind of, to me, I took it as always think out of the box, always think about, your different situations in life, whether it's work or whether it's personal, your personal safety. So, I always think about that. I had Christopher Antoine, who's a former attorney. Oh my gosh, Christopher Anton and Mike Mariachi, who of course was a recent speaker as well. I've known those two forever. I think they gave me such a perspective. I call them my mentors, as to the workplace, where you kind of do that work-life balance in a sense of knowing the people and how do you manage it still on that legal side and do it all with finesse and just the proper manners in which you deal with situations. And, you always want to make someone feel worthy no matter what the situation is or how they exit, because it's important. Your words can impact so much in their life.
Mm.
And so those two gentlemen have been awesome, in my life. And then, I get all the other influencers that I always listen to because as I mentioned, I'm always hungry for that. I love Pedram Shojai. Do a lot with that. He's the urban monk, and he's he's great. If you haven't read some of his books, they're awesome. And I've got Tony Robbins, Dean Gracioso, and I think you may know this Bruce Waller. And Tony, of course, Tony Bridwell. I mean, and I think of Tony often too, in relations to the storytelling,
Mhm.
and I think that's so key. So I've got a lot of folks that just as you see something or you go to a seminar, all your
Yeah.
takeaways, and to me that's a good little piece of mentorship. It's not always that like dad's the foundation all the way through, and like you said, I can hear him sometimes. Just do your best when you go out there.
Mhm.
But every time you go out and you interact with people, there's a little piece that you take away, and
Mm.
sometimes it is that mentorship. Like it's going to stay with you.
Mm, I love that. I got to tell you, you're listening right now. Get your pen out, get your journal out. You need to be taking some notes. I've almost got a full page of note, Rosie. I was actually thinking about the advice. What are you going to do if dot dot dot? That's what I wrote down just now.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, I had Jerry George on the show recently, and she talked about having a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E. She's always thinking, anticipating ahead. And I love that. Now, I don't know if we would have ever been able to fill in the blank of what are we going to do if we have a pandemic of COVID. But
Right?
but always like planning ahead on all these different things kind of gets you thinking like that. And by the way, when you mentioned Christopher Anton and Mike Mariarchi and Tony Bridwell, you're talking about Hall of Famers here, just in our
Yeah.
DFW area. So a shout out to all of them. But I love everything you shared about that. And it's amazing what we learn from people if we just listen. Hey, well, let me ask you this. So here you are, you're a leader in leadership here at the Rock. Royal Oaks Country Club is known as the Rock.
Mhm.
Um,
The rock.
and talk a little bit about like that moment that when you were in hospitality. Well, you are still in hospitality. I mean, you've been your whole career, but today you're in this leadership role as a director. I would love to hear your story about like when you found your lane, when you found your purpose and said, you know what, I love this. I'm going to continue serving in this capacity. Was there a moment or were there moments?
Definitely moments. I think I continue to find my leadership lane. I've I found it. I feel early on in my career when I could see as a leader, just when you learn to read the nonverbal, when you listen, as you mentioned, when you're listening to people, and when you're connecting to people. And I think I did a lot of that when I would show the team. We would set up a room, if you can imagine, like the Anatole, and you set up the Chantilly ballroom for a big function or anything, whether it's here at this club or anywhere else. And then you take that team, especially like your stewarding team that's washed all these dishes, put them all together, and you take them back into that room and you say, look what your guys have done. It's gorgeous. You know
Mm,
that people are going to be here, and those plates have made such a difference. And this is all for this certain organization, a certain charity. And to see their faces that look how you put this room together. It's gorgeous, and the plates and the silverware and the attention to detail. When you do that and you connect them to that bigger picture, and they feel good about like, wow, we did that,
mm,
and I think that's so important. When I found that I could connect so much to employees and find out a little bit more about what's happening. Sometimes we had people that were struggling at work, and when you take time to listen and to hear what's going on and not rush through it, you find out things that are happening in their home, things that are happening, just maybe troubling. And the Dallas Community Affairs Department of the Dallas Police Department, to me, is just, they are just awesome. They would come out and they would do little groups, and they would come plain clothes just to talk to employees and say, we know life is real, but here's things that you can do. Because when you have that employee who's, that car is so important to them, and they're in an apartment place where it's not safe, it's always being broken into, and any noise that they hear, or the alarm going off, and they're up and down. And then when it gets time to get to work, there's problems because, oh, I'm running late. This is happening. We had people that were being harassed at a bus stop. They didn't know they could call on DART, and get help. Where can they go? These things that are happening in their personal life that make such a difference and an impact to the employer at the end of the day. Just taking that little time to say, we're going to have this lunch session, we're going to do this, and we're going to just let you guys talk. I'm not even in the room. I don't want to know. This is y'all's time. Ask all those questions you ever wanted to ask an officer, and it's no, they're not checking to see what you're behind on rent, you're this or that. Just talk to them. It was the greatest thing. I mean, in that type of connection with the teams really makes me happy. It makes me want to know, and where else can I get other resources? What else can I do for helping individuals that, for us, that we can go Google, we can go do this, we can do that. And some people just don't have those resources.
I got to tell you, I got chills as you share that story about the some of the employees or team members, dishwashers and staff coming out and looking to see what they've done. It reminded me of whenever I would go and take someone out from the office, or maybe even take out a corporate client to the job site where the employee was moving, and said, "Hey, see what all they're going through." Right.
Right.
Packing and loading and moving their entire belongings to a new city. It can be so stressful, but when you see it from that lens, it just looks different, right? I mean, it's almost like
Right.
we talked about it on the show, or in our climb group about, it's starting with the why. Like, why are we doing this? If we understand our why, all of a sudden our purpose is bigger and it just feels different, right?
Exactly. And then it's not so much the work. It's getting to accomplish that and seeing that beautiful creation.
Mm. Yeah, that's incredible. I love that. Oh my gosh. I am so thankful for you sharing that. I know there's some people listening right now getting ideas, thinking, maybe I need to kind of do something a little bit different here. Hey, let's talk leadership. Here we are, 2023. I always like to ask my guests, I'd love to ask you, if someone says, "Hey, Rosie, what is leadership to you?" How would you respond to that?
Leadership to me is the we. When at the end of the day, everyone's saying we did it, we made it happen. It's that we, and the leader is not even really in the equation. It's not, you are not the highlight. Leadership is making the team be the team. Your accomplishment is together.
The we. I love that. Leadership is the we. Write that down. That's fantastic. So, and you serve a lot of hats. Like, you are employee relations, you're recruiting. I mean, you do a lot of different things. I'm curious, is there a particular area of your role that you like serving best?
Um, I enjoy the mix definitely, but employee relations is my
Mm,
favorite. I
mm,
I want to I love listening to the folks, and I think they feel
mm,
very comfortable when they come and talk to me. And it's listening and just sharing anything about their
mm,
family. If they made a cake, if they did, watched YouTube and fixed something together,
mm.
to just whatever is happening in their life. And especially right now, I think it's important to take that extra minute, that extra time it serves, because some people are doing, we have two jobs, we're running,
Mm.
we're like, having to do even three jobs, when you consider whatever's going on at home. I tell them that's a third job. So it's important right now, I think, to do that.
Do you remember in our climb group, we read the book by Bob Chapman, and it was Everybody Matters. And as you're sharing this story, I'm sitting here thinking about that statistic that always seemed to just hit me. And he basically shared that 88% of the people in the workplace don't feel like their value are heard. And I always thought that was just a super high number until I started asking people about it, and how they would tell me that they hadn't, their supervisor hadn't reached out to them and talked to them about not just the job, but the life. And it sounds like to me that you really enjoy just connecting with people and just learning their story so you can help them and equip them to be their best.
Absolutely, and it makes a big difference. And when you even hear a little bit, when you receive calls, I had a call once that the kids were going through the trash, and I had to get in touch with the mom. And the mom seemed to be having some, frequent accidents, but that's because her mind was over here. So what can we do to get provide a resource to help? We won't always have the solution. Sometimes, they're not. Maybe it's not for them, but at least to know that you can contribute a little bit and put that at ease, plant the seed, it makes a difference for them because again it's not something that maybe they're going to take right away, but giving it some thought, sleeping on it, maybe they'll want to use that resource, or they'll think about how can I do this differently or better, because it's important for the employee to know that you're there for them.
That's fantastic. As you're sitting here talking about this, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today was the employee experience. And as you're sharing all of these all are things that elevate and amplify that employee experience. And so what I wanted to ask you was for, especially for the listeners today that are, here we are, we're in a new year and we're trying to figure out, hey, how can we elevate this year? How can we elevate that employee experience? I would just, I was curious if you could share maybe, I don't know, maybe some tips on some things that you have done or maybe that you're doing in the new year that you're going to focus on to try to elevate that area.
Absolutely. It's continuing to discover me first. You got to discover you first.
Mm,
What makes you come to work? What makes you want to do this, or just kind of makes you just energized about the day. So I think it's important to discover you, continue to lead by example for elevating our 2023. Make sure that you are becoming that master of communication, and that communication being those nonverbal. That is going to be
mm,
so key for 2023. And it's speaking less in a sense, and reading your team, seeing what are they telling you by their body language, and taking interest. I know sometimes we're in a rush, we're going to a meeting, and you may not be able to hear them at that moment, but go back and say, I'm interested in knowing what the rest of what you had to share with me. Always take that time to go back. It makes a difference in investing in your team, knowing what motivates them, and how do they like to be recognized. That recognition is so important, but
mm,
it's also important to know how do they want to be recognized. Some people are very quiet. Some people, if the boss just goes to them and says, hey, awesome job, they don't need anything else. They are pumped for the
mm,
day. Other people love to see their name on that, hey, recognizing this person. Other people don't. They really don't. So it's just taking that moment in time to just listen. And it makes such, they will just be there with you in the hard times. And we will be having challenges for 2023. So I think that those deposits of time, of, of energy that it spends that you think it's not important, it is so important for that one person. I guess even, having right now through the recently, of course, with Christmas, it's a Wonderful Life.
mhm,
That movie, what if you weren't there to make that quick comment of you can do it, of you've got this. Maybe it made a difference for that person. It
mm.
all starts to make a difference of your conversations with that individual. So I think that's so key for 2023 because we have some unknown challenges, I'm sure, ahead, that, are whether it's predicted or not predicted of coming. But I think that's so important.
I wrote down deposits of time. I'm just sitting here meditating on that as you sit here and share all of these things. And you started with the most important thing. It's just like when you hear, you're talking about a flight attendant early on, put your
Hmm.
oxygen mask on first. You have to help yourself first before you can help others. And in this particular case, you're saying, hey, you need to discover you. so you can lead, by example and lead your team. But I do want to dive into this real quick. And that is when we
Mhm.
talk about recognition. You mentioned, and I've heard this too, that some people just say they just need you to tell them that you appreciate them. You're doing a good job. Hey, you're helping the team. And then others, they want to see their name up on the lights. I mean, I need to see it. You recognize me. How do you know what to do for each person? How do you know that? Your thoughts around that? How somebody listening today says, hey, I want to start doing that, but I'm not really sure. What are your thoughts around that?
Again, it's kind of visiting with all your team, and I look at those nonverbal clues. I see how their face lights up. Does their face light up when you say, "I really appreciate you. I thank you for doing that," or is it like, "Okay, yeah, whatever"?
Mm,
You want to know how does it
mm.
affect them? What meaning do your words have to them? They have to have true sincerity. They don't want to know that just the boss is coming through, fly by, say thank you, thank you, thank you, and it's not meaning something. If it's sincere and it comes from the heart and you're speaking to the heart, it will just resonate so strong with them that that is the richness.
That's
And people
fantastic.
don't.
That's fantastic. I was thinking about nonverbal cues. As you just now went through that process, I was like, I get it. Right. So their face just lights up. And so that's a great cue. Like, okay, let's keep doing that. Where others
Mhm.
that if they kind of do the roll the eyes, it doesn't mean they're ungrateful. It just means, yeah, what else? Show me a different way. And it's just the way we're
Right.
all wired. And I just
Exactly. And it's not bad. It's not bad. It's
no.
it's all good. It's just finding that vibration. It's finding that path.
Mhm.
What is that person's path on?
Yeah, we all have different personalities. We all are
Mhm.
motivated in a little bit different way. And it's really up to the leader to find out what that is. And it's like you said,
Mhm.
you got to link, you got to walk. John Maxwell always talked about you got to walk slowly through the crowd, right? and,
Exactly,
and, and,
exactly.
and
You
I
gotta
love that.
explore. You
Hmm.
gotta explore. And a lot of the time, along with, I have a fantastic GM, Todd Harbor, Mr. PGA. So, is that we will see, if I know say it's an employee's birthday, and he shares with me, I'm going to be spending it at home. I'll ask, what do you do for your birthday? Since, they say, okay, here's my birthday's coming up. And he said, oh, I'm going to spend it with my grandchildren. They're going to come over. They're going to celebrate Papa's birthday. How awesome. So that's my cue enough that he's going to be home. So I'm sending tips, milk, chocolate, chip cookies, the whole works, ice cream setup, everything. Send it to the home on that night and, say, hey, celebrate your birthday from the rock with your family. And we take a lot of time to thank the spouse, whether it's the male or the female that's having that person here. We have, recognizing our superintendents. They're here so much. And we appreciate those 6 o'clock in the mornings and when they're still here at 6 o'clock at night. And by the time they get home, it's eight. That if they say, I'm going to try and go celebrate my wife's birthday, I'm sending, you know, 1-800 flowers. I'm sending a birthday flower cake. Thank you. Thank you, for the time that you allow or sharing, this person with us because it's part of that family balance. But we want to know they're part of the Rock family. They're part of us because they have to do also those, oh, my husband or wife is still at work. I got to take the kids. He can't help me. She can't help me. Whatever it is, whatever that situation, I think it's important to recognize that team at home because that gives them encouragement as well. Yeah, I've got a great place to work. I want to, I'm proud to be a part of it, and they're, recognizing my family. So I think it's nice to get those recognitions in for the family when you can, and it makes everyone feel really a part.
That's fantastic. I was actually thinking about how, and it's not one of those things where, we know it shows up on our returns. We know that companies that are best places to work companies, they make more money percentage wide. There's a lot of statistics around that, but it's not like, hey, you be nice and we start making more money. That's not the why behind that. The why behind that is, hey, we just want to help people get better. The better they get, the more they can help our customers, and it's just going to grow our
Mhm.
organization altogether. I do have a question I want to ask you, and I love all this. I do have a question though. How do you and as you talk about this, I see what success looks like. All the things you're talking about, but I do want to ask you. God, I was thinking about this, Rosie, and I sent you a note on this because I talk a little bit about ethics, and in golf, it's a game of honor, right? So,
Mhm.
hey, if you hit the ball, you keep your score, and you need to be honest about that. But what about
Right.
in the workplace? Do you talk about ethics? I know that it's one of those things that we talk about, but yet we really don't talk about it. Any any perspective around ethics and how you communicate that in your organization?
Yes. I guess taking it to it's a Greek word, ethos. It means the way of living. So here, it's not just something that is learned or that you say you need to do what's right. It's, as they say, it's doing right something all the time when people are not even looking. And it's cultivated. It's cultivated here, and a good part because of the sports, the golf, the we have a director of rackets. We have all of the tennis, the swim, our director of aquatics. Everything is brought forth in their actions and then through their teams. It just penetrates through. It's a way of living. It's the way we do things. Um, Good examples of when people do that extra mile for the guests. That's good ethics of doing
Mm,
the right thing at the right time. Even though someone wasn't able to do something, how did you help that person? Maybe they were ill, maybe something else was going on. Did we reach back out to them and say, I hope you feel better? And so all of that is always sharing those good examples of where your ethics are and highlighting those, and that cultivates that um, culture in your work environment, no matter where you are. It's always cultivating it. Sometimes it's not exactly the learn piece. You can do the training pieces that are the so-called requirements, but when you cultivate it and you show these great examples of what people are doing, that's what makes a difference.
oh, that's fantastic. I love how you said it's a way of living. And as you talk about going the extra mile, that actually circles back around what we were just talking about was the recognition. It's like
Mm-hmm.
enforcing that recognition, like, hey, great job. This is the way we do things. This is the way we live. And I just love everything about that.
Yeah.
That's
We
fantastic.
do the Rock Awards.
The rock. Oh, do you have a rock award? Or do you?
We do the Rock Awards, yeah.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, we do the Rock Awards, and those come for doing that extra mile. Sometimes a member calls in, and they'll let Todd know, or they'll let the social catering manager know. This individual just really did, X, Y, Z, or it's my mom's, 82 birthday, and they weren't even expecting it, and they went and did all these little extra things, and those are the special touches, and those are the ones that we want to keep recognizing again to keep growing that culture because they get excited, they feel good. Our members, are awesome, and they as well, they love our team, and it's one big family. So it's just that
Mm,
nurturing and caring that just continues to grow.
the rock award. I love that. That's so fantastic. So good. So good. Hey, I did want to ask you, we both participate in climb. We talked a little bit about that.
Mhm.
How do you like the reason why we do that? We go back to our why, right? We start with us. We're trying to
Mhm.
develop
Mhm.
ourselves because if we can get better, we can serve those around us better, right? I was just
Mhm.
curious, like, do you have a leadership or a development program? How do you help your team members continue to grow in their roles?
It varies on the individual. Going back to see where do you want to go? What do you want to do?
Mhm.
Especially you have we get a lot of seasonal teams. So theirs is they want to have that summer job, but in getting to know them, I love our young adults, and they all connect with me on LinkedIn. And so then to see them that, hey, I'm graduating, now I'm getting my first internship. They send me even 2 years down the road. This is what I'm doing now. And I'm so proud of them. And so I think a lot of it is that development is again engaging, getting to know the team, and seeing where do they want to go. If they want to stay here, then let's rock it here. Then we're gonna see what certifications help you grow. What do you need from where you are to blossom in that field. And I think it's so important that they know that we're here to help you grow. I've always believed in that. I had one when I was in the hotel at one of the job fairs said, "Oh, Rosie, we're about to take one of your employees." And I said, "I'm so happy." I said, "They are going to love it there with you. This is not about, all the brands are beautiful.
Mm.
Sure, you get your touch to the one that you're at, but at the end of the day, it's hospitality, it's human
Yeah.
resources, it's wanting people to have work, job, growth, that personal growth." And I told her I'm happy. She was shocked. She was like, "Really?" And I said, "Yes." I
Mm.
said, "How exciting because of, the environment and, the possibilities. Sometimes your supervisors, your managers are not moving in your area. You want that person go. And then a lot of times they come back and they come back richer with more experience, more, I learned a little bit of this, I learned a little bit of that. And it's all good.
Mm.
It's all good. It's like, I get excited for people when, if they're changing brands, if they're changing this or that, it's still they're growing. At the end of the day, they're growing and they're going to bring something else to the table to that company. So it's all good. And goodness, this industry is so small. It's like we all kind of know each other from somewhere. And I think it's so, it really is invigorating to see people grow and to see them, just blossom. And I have fun from my seat as well because we're a private club. There's no other Royal Oaks. There's one in Houston, but we're not affiliated. It's just the private membership. So I'm having a ball just enjoying people's successes. I
Mm.
want people to succeed. I tell people don't hesitate. I brainstorm with you. I've been down the journey of so many different I called it my tour of duty of so many little spots. It's like I loved it. I loved it. I have learned so much. I learned so much, and I think why rewrite sometimes the whole wheel if you can get a little excerpt from somebody.
Rosie's tour of duty is helping people, and I absolutely love that. I told you the time was going to fly as we got on here. I've got one more question I do want to ask you, and I'd like to ask my guests about any advice that you were given. Maybe it was early career or in your current role. Any advice you were given that it was just so good that you just find yourself sharing with others. Would you share that?
Listen to others.
Mm.
Listen. Take time to listen. I mean, that is just such a key. Just do that deep listening. You can always have a takeaway, and you can always be able then to provide with more heart, possible solution, or just that time to care for someone in their conversation. So I think that's so important. I think to me that's just the biggest key.
Deep listening. I love that. That is fantastic. That's some great advice. And I guarantee you there's somebody listening right now that is like, I needed to hear that. I needed that today. And so I appreciate you sharing that so much. Hey, we're going to shift to the last part of the show. It's called It's Time to Accelerate. And I'm going to ask you a few fun facts. I would like to ask, I know you're in our Climb Book Club. So I would like to ask, would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast?
Both. I got
Book.
to feel the vibe. It depends if I'm in the car, if I'm, want to, it depends on the topic. Sometimes you want to, like you said, meditate a little bit more. Let me reread it. I still love the hardcover books or, something in
Yeah.
paper and that I can highlight. I love writing
Yeah.
in my books.
Yeah.
So, and then I love the podcast because I love
Yeah.
to hear the energy. I love to hear the laughter, what's going on. So,
I have behind me all of our books that we've read together in climb. Any favorites that stand out? Any book that stands out to you?
So many of them. Atomic Habits,
Oh yeah,
I think
really
is,
good. James Clear.
yeah, James Clear. Just
Yeah,
take it a little piece at a time. It's almost like, don't rush it. Kind of going back to our
yeah,
dads. Don't rush.
love it. Don't
Take it
rush
a
it.
step at a time. That's how, and you can build those good habits, and then they just become a part of your life, and it's all good. It's like life is real, but we just not sometimes just we can slow
This is
it
so
down a little bit.
this is so good. Oh my goodness. Hey, I here we are. We just finished all the holidays. We're getting into the okay, we're headed,
Mhm.
let's go 2023. Everybody's, ready to go. What are you grateful
Right.
for?
I'm grateful for my faith that you can have when it's really dark and you are
Mhm,
going through challenges and hard times. Keep
mhm,
that faith. I'm grateful for my son. My son is my blessing. He was a preemie. He was born 3 pounds, 3 ounces. Um, Everything about him was a three. um, the part three that was not so good was that he had a grade 3 bleed in his head, and they said he would never. The highest you get, I think, as a preemie is a 4, and they said he would never walk or talk. Always would need assistance, and he's my miracle. He's healthy, he's well, he's so sharp, and I'm grateful for him expanding me because I would not know, I don't think as much if it wasn't for him. And because I also, I was hungry to learn how can I help him, how can I help him, be whole um, as here as possible. And he is amazing. He is just, he's my little rock at home. He's always, as mom say, they're babies. He's 26, but he has expanded my life and everything that he loves to do, and he loves everything about learning about the different parts of the world, and so that's expanded me. And we've gone to concerts and every kind of thing. It's like we're he's just amazing. He's an amazing young man, and I look forward to see what he does, in his future.
I'm so grateful for you sharing that story. That is fantastic. I'm just like I have chills now. That's incredible. I love that. Hey, let me ask you this. Outside of work, what energizes you?
Knowing that it's a journey the next day, something's going to happen. It's an adventure. I I love pets. I have a pet. I have a mini husky. Oh my gosh, he's a hot
Hmm.
mess. He keeps mama busy. He's my
Hot
fur baby.
mess.
Since the other one is older, I now have a fur baby. And but I enjoy life. I
Mm,
think about Dr. Dwayne Dyer. He wrote a book for um, change your thoughts, change your life. It's
mm,
it's powerful. It's the Tao Te Ching. It's the 80 Proverbs, and it's the book that has been rewritten and rewritten so many times. Not as many as the Bible, but
mhm,
Dr. Dyer's reflection on each of those and how they pertain to us now, and how we could reflect. Of course, Dr. Dyer has passed, but he made such an influence for me to stop, breathe, and take a look at life. Seeing that butterfly, seeing just the things that people can say, "Oh, that's silly," but it's like take that moment, take that time to breathe,
mm.
and it's just it's impactful. But it's called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, and that one I usually will pick up and kind of just read through it, meditate on some of the items
Mm.
because they're just part of that slow down enlightenment. Just take the time to breathe. So I enjoy that.
I'll put a link in the show notes. So if someone wants to check that out, they can click that link. I will check that out as well. I love that. Appreciate you sharing that. Hey, this is the final question.
All
Rosie,
right.
Rosie, 10 years older, is knocking at your front door and you're going to go answer that door. What's she going to tell you?
She's going to say, take life a moment at a time. Life goes by very fast. Don't rush it. Be patient, and those doors will open.
Sounds like a wise 10 years older Rosie. I can hear your dad sharing that
Oh, yeah. Oh,
through you.
yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
I am so
Absolutely.
grateful for you coming on the show today, sharing your wisdom and perspective, because I know some of the things you shared today will help some people that are listening. Hey, if somebody heard something, wanted to connect with you, Rosie, what's the best way for them to connect?
They're always welcome to email me at rquiroga at roccdallas.com. I'm on LinkedIn, and just send me a message. I'm happy to connect there as well.
And I'll put that in the show notes so people can click on that link to connect with you. And again, I'm
Absolutely.
so grateful for you coming on today. Here we are. It's going to be an incredible year. It's going to be a challenging year. You mentioned that earlier. I agree with that.
Mhm.
But with the right people around you, right? And
Exactly.
and the strategy, things are going to be absolutely incredible. And so for that, I say thank you. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for your friendship.
Thank you. We will make it happen. We got a good circle. It's a
We got
good
a
circle.
good circle.
Expanding.
I
And it's
cannot wait to
growing, so I love it.
I love it. Hey, I'll see you at Climb, and I can't wait to share this show. I'll talk to you later.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.